I got this great deal today at the store. A choice beef ribeye boneless roast. Normally $13 a pound. Looks pretty nice. They wrapped it up for me. It was in the case, but with the holiday pricing, it was $8.99 a pound. So, as you can see, it was quite a bargain. $20 off. And the only ribeye steaks they had were prime, and they were $26.99 a pound. And they were also about maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. Hardly even a steak in my book. So what we're going to do is make, I'm looking at this, maybe around 4 steaks out of this roast. And I'm going to vacuum seal and freeze all but one, so I can have that one this week. And the other is vacuum sealed fresh on the day that I bought this. Will be excellent for sous vide cooking and final searing. One of the best things about sous vide is that you no longer essentially can tell when you vacuum seal and freeze something that it's ever been frozen. So since I am only one person, this is a really practical way to spend a few dollars on some steak and make sure that you get the most out of it. So now we've removed the packaging. You can see a little bit of a hole here where I've removed the pop-out timer that they'd inserted at the store, and I've removed the butcher twine that they had previously wrapped this in. I've noticed, looking at this piece of meat, that not only do we have a little bit of fat here, which isn't that bad of a thing, but we have silver skin here, which is a sinewy membrane that is never fun. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of trimming of this fat and definitely make sure that I get that sinew and membrane off. I'm going to do that by kind of finding where it starts, and then generally it's not so bad with a cut like this. Some cuts you really are going to have trouble with this, but generally I'll just use a paper towel to grab a hold of it once you get it started, and you can essentially pull it off between the knife and a little bit of pulling. This runs into the meat a little bit, so we're going to lose a tiny bit, but I would much rather lose the silver skin or lose a little bit of fat to go with that. I don't think there's too much else there, but I'm going to clean this up a little bit, and we'll be right back. We've done plenty of trimming here and done about all we needed to do. You can see here I've kind of got quite a bit of trimmed off fat, and with a bunch of that silver skin in there. And the reason we're not, though fat is flavor, the reason I'm not too worried about that little bit of extra fat that was over here, first of all, it was pretty deep in a few places. Second of all, this being a ribeye, you can see from this side, it's got plenty of fat marbled in the grain, and this big hunk of it in the center as well. So we're not going to be wanting more fat here, and we're also not going to be slow cooking this like a roast. We're going to be cooking this as steaks at a thickness that will not require the kind of long-term cooking that can render that fat and make it work for us. So therefore leaner in our case is a bit better within the realm of what we've got to go with a ribeye. So now that we have this trimmed up, I'll get rid of this fat, and we will go ahead and select our steak thickness. So as you can see, here's a nice side profile of what our steaks are. I was hoping, this is a 5-pound roast, again, that we got an amazing deal on, because during pandemic times in the United States, we seem to have some kind of supply chain situation going on, and I don't know exactly why it is, because it's actually not a problem with supplying the meat, and it's certainly not a problem with the number of cows that are sent to slaughter, but somewhere in the processing chain for beef, somebody is basically creating a huge markup, and I don't, there's no real logic for that, but someone is certainly getting rich off and calling it pandemic pricing. So I haven't been able to have a decent steak in months and months, because prices have been, in some cases twice as much as what they were pre-pandemic. Ribeye is my favorite steak, and as I said earlier, thin little ribeye steaks, which are not thick enough for how I like to cook a steak and eat a steak, were an insane amount of money. So this is going to be a good deal for us. I was hoping at 5 pounds I could cut essentially, 5 16-ounce steaks out of this, but I don't think that's how this is going to go looking at it, because I want to say 2, yeah, I think 5 would just get a little thinner than I want, so I think we're going to probably end up going with 4 nice thick steaks. So to keep it even, I'm going to start right here in the middle with my carving knife. And here we go. So we've got, oh, that looks good. Alright, so here would be 2 really, really gargantuan size steaks, and then we'll just cut those in half again. Again, I'm trying not to saw through this. I've got a sharp knife here, so I can pretty much get through it in about 3 passes with a little extra on the sinews, etc. So there's beautiful steak number 1, beautiful steak number 2, and we'll go with this last pass. Okay, so now we have some really nice looking ribeye steaks. Look at that. That's pretty good marbling for choice at $8.99 a pound. Wow, that looks good. So next I'm going to pull out my vacuum sealer, and we'll take 3 of these, seal those for the freezer, and choose one of these to leave out for me to cook for my dinner tomorrow. Now I've got out my Oliso resealable Ziploc reusable vacuum bag, which I love to use for sous vide. They're super heavy duty. This one is a gallon. I don't really have anything smaller right now, so rather than individually wrap these, I'm just going to take advantage of the whole bag, and I put some parchment paper, which is what I had. You can use butcher paper, wax paper, or even a little bit of plastic wrap, just so that there's a barrier between each steak so they don't freeze into one piece. So once these are frozen, I can open them up, pull one out, reseal it, open the other one up, pull it out, reseal it. So first thing I'm going to do is seal the Ziploc, and then I'll pull out the machine and we'll vacuum seal this. Okay, so here we have my Oliso Pro Smart Vacuum Sealer, which I love because it allows me to use these Oliso bags that I was just showing you. And as I said, they're not only do they have the Ziploc across the top, but they're actually reusable. And each one of these circles you can see here is a place where I've previously vacuum sealed this bag. Each one of these is reusable up to 12 times. So you've got places for seals 6 times per side. So I'm going to pick one that's somewhat accessible here. This one looks good, and we're going to see if I can manage to get that into the machine with some clearance after we've sealed it. And with the machine on moist, it will do the rest. You just bring it up to the line here. Now we wait for it to tell us it's ready while it reseals. Interesting, when it's ready, it gives you a red light. I would kind of expect green, but okay, so here we have our steaks completely sealed in our bag, vacuum sealed. And freezing them fresh like this, especially if you use the sous vide method to cook them, you'd be surprised. Normally I am all against freezing meat. I've just not had good experience. This is the only time I've actually been, I mean fish, I've had great luck with obviously frozen fish, frozen seafood, but meat is always a disappointment to me. I found that even doing this with hamburger patties, it's night and day, total difference. So I'll throw these in the freezer, and let's take one last look at the steak I've got for myself for tomorrow night. Here's this beauty. So this turns out to be a beautifully 1.5 inch thick ribeye steak that I ended up paying, let's see, it was, what was it, 45 divided by 4, so it's about 11 bucks. Not too bad for a steak that thick of that quality. I'm pleased with this deal, and I'm all about saving money. So hope you enjoy this. See you soon.